Hey guys, I'm Robin.
And I'm Miko.
And we're Wander Open Roads.
And today we are here to bring you some information about trip planning, more specifically RV trip planning.
Absolutely, yeah.
And how we plan our trips and get ourselves organized and ready to take long road trips.
So today we want to go over our 5 steps that we use in our RV trip planning. Now, some people like to kind of fly by the seat of their pants, and they really don't do a lot of planning on their trips. But that's not us. We have to know exactly where we're going for how many days and where we're going next, and we like to do that level of planning. So that is what works for us. It's different for everybody, but that's what we do, and we want to share it with you.
Yes, not planning this ahead of time would probably stress us out, being former engineers. So we have to plan this out basically to a T.
Yeah. Okay, so step 1 is determining your ultimate destination and your duration. Something we like to call D2X.
Okay. So for the purpose of this video, we have come up with an example that we're going to take from beginning to end. Yep. So one place that we've kind of always wanted to go that we just hadn't had a chance to go to is Maine.
Yeah.
Maine is really beautiful, like in the summer and the fall. There's so much to see there, and our favorite thing to do is to visit lighthouses. So we're thinking that might be a really far destination, something that really takes a lot of planning that would be good for our example.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we have our destination. Our destination is Maine. So now you have to figure out, how long do you want to spend on this trip? Is this something you have a week to do, or do you have a month, or do you want to spend a year doing this road trip to Maine? It really just depends on you and how much time that you have. I think for our example, we're going to base it on 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to make it too short of a duration trying to get to Maine, because then we really won't be able to enjoy, all the different places that we can stop along the way. So we felt like 3 months would probably be long enough to be able to do this trip and really enjoy ourselves and see everything.
Yep, so make those decisions on your destination and duration, and then you move to step 2.
So step 2 in this travel planning process is to determine where will you stay, what would be your camping accommodations along this route. So for our example, again, we are traveling to Maine, so we're looking at a map and we're seeing, okay, we're going to basically stay along the East Coast, probably closer to the ocean. Right. So what would be our accommodations along that route?
Right. So something that's very important is, first of all, you really have to determine how many hours per day that you want to travel. Okay, because that's going to determine, the accommodations that you're looking for in particular locations. For us, we have a 4 to 6 hour rule. So we don't want to have to travel from destination to destination any more than 4 to 6 hours in one day. That just saves the wear and tear on our rig and on us.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't want to get to your destination and you're so worn out from trying to get there that by the time you get there, you don't feel like doing anything.
Right. So from there, we look for campground memberships or preferred places that we like to camp in those general areas. So for us, we have a certain pecking order. Number 1 is we like to stay at Thousand Trails first. Then number 2 would be RPI. Number 3 would be Passport America campgrounds. And number 4 would be either state parks or KOAs. So those are the campgrounds that we look for in that particular order. And that's because of, cost and the campground memberships that we already have and things of this nature. For you, it may be military campgrounds. It may be Harvest Host. It may be, however you like to camp. But, for us, those are the places that we like to camp. So we'll look on the map and we'll see what's available, in that 4 to 6 hour range as we move up our route.
Right. So again, you want to start with whatever camping memberships that you have, because you have them for a reason, so that you can save money.
Yep.
And then you kind of go from there. We just happen to have a lot of camping ground memberships because we're really trying to control our budget by having these campground memberships. So it really helps us when we're planning, because then we can just focus on those memberships and what campground locations they have along our route.
Definitely. So in our Maine example, we would be starting off in Florida on I-95 North. So we were looking for campgrounds along that route, and Miko has some examples.
All right, so I'm going to kind of go through my calendar here because I put it on paper. So in South Carolina, we would stay at the Oaks at Point South, which is Styles and Trails. Yep. Next would be Whispering Pines in Newport, North Carolina. And we have a PA location after that.
Passport America.
Passport America at Cedar Island, in Cedar Island, North Carolina. Then Virginia Landing in Quimby, Virginia. Chestnut Lake in Port Republic, New Jersey. So you can see we're traveling through various states. So then we have Sturbridge RV in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. So you can see we're making our way up the East Coast. Then Gateway to Cape Cod in Rochester, Massachusetts. Patton Pond, which is in Ellsworth, Maine. So now we're basically into Maine. Duck Puddle, which is in Noble.
That's a great name.
Noblesboro, Maine. So kind of like in the middle of Maine, and that would be with our Passport America. Moody Beach, Thousand Trails in Wells, Maine. And so we're kind of making the loop coming back down. So we're hitting different campgrounds on the way back down. So, again, we really stay at a lot of different places. And so as you can see, again, using Thousand Trails, RPI if it's available, and then Passport America. But we kind of go in that order, and we're just finding places to stay all up the East Coast and then back down.
In doing this, we keep our costs very low, which is, one of our main goals is to, travel, but yet not break the bank.
Yes, got to stay on that budget.
That's right.
So that leads us to step 3 in our travel planning process. So now we want to determine and do some research on the attractions in the area, because that's going to determine how long we want to stay at each stop.
Yeah, that's very important. And one of the things when we do our planning is, of course, we are driving our RV and parking it, and then we get on the motorcycle in order to go around and explore the area. So on the motorcycle, I kind of have a general rule that I really don't want to have to drive any more than about an hour and a half one way to get to a destination, because that's a 3-hour round trip in one day. So we basically, once we find that campground in the general area, we do about an hour and a half radius, and then we can figure out what the attractions are. Now from that, if, let's say for example, in a given location, there are 3 major things that we say, oh yeah, these are things we definitely want to do, I take that number and I multiply it by 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. That gives us days built in between if there's bad weather, if we're just tired and want a day just to sit around and hang out in the RV.
Or we have something last minute that we want to do.
Exactly. So that makes it so that, we don't have something going on each day when we're on this schedule where it's like, okay, we got to get up and do this. We got to get up and do this. Because it's all, it's leisure travel. You're trying to have fun and enjoy yourself. So we don't want to burn ourselves out. So
we don't want to vacation from the vacation.
Exactly. So if I have 3 attractions, that times 2 is 6. So I would generally schedule that as like a 7-day or a week stay, basically.
Right. Make it, nice and even.
Yeah. So that's our general rule of thumb for basic planning. Yeah.
Right. So let's give an example.
Okay.
So like our first stop is in South Carolina at the Oaks. And so we have scheduled, we're thinking about 7 days. So what are some of the things that we can do, kind of major attractions in South Carolina?
Okay, yeah. So in that area of South Carolina, you are within an hour and a half drive of Savannah, of Charleston, You have, I believe it's called Hunting Beach, which is a state park, which has which has a lighthouse. So we would definitely have to check that out.
Yes.
And then there is St. Helena Island, which is a really cool place, for the whole low country culture and food and things. So yeah, there were easily 3 or 4 things in that location. So
right, which hence led to us staying there for 7 days.
7 days, yeah. So that would be the plan. Would be 7 days, yeah. That's it.
Be sure to check out our camping apparel and accessories at shopredsquare.com. We also sell on Etsy and Amazon. The links will be in the description. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're up to step 4, which is to start using your tools. There are a lot of planning tools out there, and we're going to share the ones we use.
All right, so we use RV Trip Wizard to actually input the details of our trip. So with RV Trip Wizard, which is also part of RV Life, so they're 2 tools that are basically married and work together. We input when we're starting our trip, what campgrounds we're staying at, and if there's a cost to that campground so that we can actually track that information. And we put in all of the different stops that we're going to make as far as campgrounds. We don't put in like our trips to different attractions because it kind of muddles up the information and it starts to get kind of confusing. So we only put the campgrounds in there. And with that, it will calculate the cost from the campgrounds and the distance between each campground. So if you put in your information as far as how much gas costs, then it will also give you a total on how much fuel cost is going to be for this trip as well. So you get how many miles for the trip, the cost for fuel, and the cost for campgrounds. And the other tool that we use is Google Calendar. So we put the potential places that we're going to stay on the calendar so that we know that we are not overlapping stays. And as we're booking, we can look on the calendar and say, okay, we need to go ahead and make a reservation for this, but it's like already on the calendar. So we kind of have the trip in 2 locations. The RV Trip Wizard, which kind of details everything out, and then Google Calendar so that we can kind of keep up with where we're going to be and where, in case we have family or friends in the area and we say, hey, we're going to be staying here at this time. And that just helps. Yeah,
definitely. And this is so important to be able to do this because it ultimately helps you to come up with a budget.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't want to plan this great trip or whatever and then you have no idea how much money you're going to spend, or you go through all this planning and then you're like, oh wow, I really can't afford this. So this allows you to come up with a budget ahead of time, so if you need to scale this thing back, or if you're like, okay, this is good, within your budget.
Exactly. So you have the miles. You can actually put in your food costs, so you can budget food costs and have basically your whole trip. You can put in costs for attractions. I don't get that detailed, but we have a general budget based on that. So here we are at step 5, the last step in our travel planning process, which is to do some thorough research on things to do in the area so that we can pencil them in and kind of know ahead of time what we're doing.
Yeah, it's very important to really dig into the details because, we talked about in step 3 how you have to do a plan based on the attractions. But now you have to do a deeper dive because what you will find is some attractions are closed on Monday and Tuesday. Some attractions require prior reservations and tickets. So once you get into that level of detail, you may need to make some slight adjustments on the particular days that you're in a certain place, or you may need to extend it by a day, things like that. Now, we use a variety of different methods. First of all, the easiest thing is just to go on Google and look up that attraction. And it'll give you all the information on cost and the time and dates that it's open. Very critical. It's especially if we're going to visit lighthouses, which is very popular in Maine. we would need to look to see if we would need to take a ferry boat out to a particular location. So you have to look at the ferry times and cost and availability. So it's very important to get into that level of detail. Another thing that we do in our research is that we look at YouTube videos. Hey, because a lot of people have been to these destinations, so you can get further information. And there've been a lot of times where we said, oh yeah, we want to go to this place, we probably only need one day. Then we watch some YouTube videos and we see all the extra things, and they were like, you know what, we need to spend 2 days there because we know that there are there's a lot more to do there than we actually thought in the beginning. So
right, and in that case, we basically just go back into RV Trip Wizard and extend the stay days, and it adjusts everything accordingly.
Right, and these are the things that you want to do before you start making your reservations, because at that point it becomes a lot harder. So you're still in your planning phase. You can do a deeper dive, and you can make those adjustments if you need to. Very important. Yeah. All right, so let's give an example. So we were looking and doing research on the Outer Banks area of North Carolina, and we actually had one stay there. But then once we did our research, we found out that you have the kind of the Cape Hatteras, which is on the south end of the Outer Banks, but then you have the northern end, which had Kitty Hawk and a really cool town called Duck, North Carolina.
Yes, and in Duck, North Carolina, based on this YouTube video that we watched, there was a recommendation to visit Donuts on a Stick.
Yep, Donuts on a Stick. So
looks actually pretty awesome. Yeah. And then to go to Duck Boardwalk.
Right.
So with all these extra things, we thought, you know what? We may want to adjust our stay in North Carolina so that we can see these extra things.
So that actually prompted us to change our schedule to find a campground that was closer to that part of the Outer Banks. Just based on the destinations and the activities that were available in that area. There was so much to see that we actually adjusted the schedule.
Right, so you kind of want to be a little flexible in the planning stages to leave room for minor changes.
Absolutely. Hey, so thanks for joining us for this video on our 5 steps in RV trip planning. And, we want to hear what tools that you use in your RV trip planning, because we're always, ready to make improvements, right?
Right. So, we use RV Trip Wizard, which also includes RV Life, which I forgot to mention we use when we actually start the trip so that we can have RV safe GPS directions from campground to campground.
Very important.
So they work together to help you with your trip. But again, it's a good tool for us, but maybe there's something, else out there that we should check out. So definitely let us know what tools that you're using in the comments.
Yes, please leave us some comments, and we will leave some links for RV Trip Wizard.
Yes, and RV Life.
And RV Life.
Also, what steps do you take when you're planning your trips? Maybe there are some different things that we can, change to ours. So definitely share your process as well in the comments.
Please do. All right. Well, everybody, travel safe out there, and we will see you next time.
Bye.